Folks, welcome into SportsBookReview.com. It is Friday, October 23rd, 2020. This is your Major League Baseball show. World Series Game 3 tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Jason Radowitz. We are going to break it all down. I got to say, Jason, our start to the World Series has been right on point. The Tampa Bay Rays come through with a nice victory in Game 2. I hit my team total over 3.5. Even made my series prediction at plus 1.5 for the Rays look even better. I'm excited and ready. Game 3, Friday night tonight, Jason. Let's get after it.
Yeah, and that's what we kind of expected. We said, this game or this series could go 7 games between two teams that have already went 7 games in their ALCS and NLCS series. So that's what we kind of projected. We thought this would kind of be a back and forth series, and that's how it's kind of looked so far. I think what we've seen is the Dodgers offense has looked really good. They've already had, 2 games with 4 or more runs. But then the Rays, that offense just kind of finds a way here and there. Brandon Lau had a big game in that second game with 2 home runs. Obviously the Rays, they have some talent. They'll strike out a ton. They do have some talent. And there's just days where they show up. When they get guys on base, the merry-go-round continues to go. And that's what we saw Game 2.
Absolutely feisty bunch there, the Rays, and they deserve to be here. They played well all season long, and we're still waiting to say, well, maybe it's a fluky year for the Rays, and eventually they're going to get knocked off by another big market, big money team. It just hasn't been the case. 1-1 as we look tonight for Friday. Also keep in mind there is going to be a game on Saturday and Sunday. And then, as we like to say, take the day off Monday, if needed, a game on Tuesday. So me and Jason have been very lucky here in the Major League Baseball postseason run where we continue to get these series extended. And to be honest with you, Jason, I don't see it happening in this one. I would be very surprised if this was the last time that you folks out there in the chat box and watching us saw our faces talking Major League Baseball here in 2020. But I tell you what's not a surprise. 71,800 people have hit the subscribe button for us right here on our YouTube channel at SBR Sports Picks. If you haven't done so yet, please do that. Click the notification bell on when Jason and I talk a little bit of World Series baseball action. You'll be able to come in the chat box, say hello. Randy, Derek, Connor, David, Dan, Gabriel, Abel, EM. Welcome into the chat box. Let's get it started today. As we said, nice 1-1 matchup. Now, also, before we get into the game itself, you have the day off. So you get these bullpens an extra day to rebuild their arms, because you saw that bullpen effort by the Dodgers. Just looking at this game before we break it down, with the day off, Jason, who do you perceive actually this helps more, the Dodgers or the Rays, or maybe negligible?
Well, look, the Rays, their bullpen is clearly a lot better. And so when you're able to kind of, sit these guys down and say, all right, they kind of struggled in the first 2 games, that first game specifically. So getting an extra day of rest for the Rays bullpen is huge. One, because the Rays obviously like to sit their starters early. So guys like, Morton, guys like Snell, Glasnow, these guys go, to the 5th inning, and then that's the end of them. They have a short leash, and so the Rays, their bullpen's always in these games, always late, always in pressure situations. So I think it benefits the Rays in terms of their bullpen. But then you look at it in a deeper level. Now, potentially, and I don't think they've announced this yet, but potentially we could see Kershaw. No, I think it's going to be Urias tomorrow. But that's good for Kershaw, though, just getting that extra day of rest, knowing that he can go Game 5 on that full day from Game 1. So that also helps the starters. And I think more specifically the Dodgers starters compared to the Rays starters, you have guys like Kershaw, that kind of needs that extra day of rest to perform, because we've seen him struggle before in the postseason. And so having that extra day for him is really good. And then also I think that it probably doesn't help the Dodgers lineup. The Dodgers had a lot of momentum going in these first 2 games, and having a day off doesn't really help when you have that streak and momentum going of solid amount of runs per game. So we'll see how the Dodgers react in this one. Going up against Charlie Morton, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, and Clayton Kershaw is not going to pitch Game 4. Yeah. He will be pitching Game 5, so you get that extra day of rest. And also for those futures tickets, if you want the Dodgers to win the World Series and Clayton Kershaw picks up 2 victories, you might be looking at the MVP of the World Series being Clayton Kershaw. So let's set the table tonight. I've said it a lot throughout the season and even earlier in this, World Series, even though we're only about 2 games in. Taking a look at the matchups at the plate, but also compounded here, Jason, by the actual weather conditions. It almost doesn't seem to matter what pitchers are on the mound. down because eventually both of these lineups are going to get to you if you're playing in 75 or 80 degree weather. Some heat and humidity is allowed in. Tonight, this could be much different. Rain throughout the afternoon, but looks like it's going to clear before game time. But if they do open the roof tonight, we're looking at about mid-50s with a swirling wind. So you're not getting that 75 degrees heat and humidity that allows that ball to travel. Having said that in this game, before we break down the pitching matchup and the teams, does that affect each or any way, Jason, that you're looking for? Because for me, it really does. If you have a nice night out there, I'm betting the over. The same way I love the Rays team total in the last game, 6-4 ends up easily going over the total for the game. But now we see that 7.5 across the board, and weather is going to be an impact, but to me, being a negative impact in this game.
If you're the Dodgers, you can't be happy with the with that kind of weather. These guys hit with hard contact, ton of power, exit velocity really high. Obviously, getting up in there in launch angles and whatnot. So if you're the Dodgers, you can't be happy with this. But then again, you do have I think this does help pitchers, and I would say Buehler probably has a little bit of an advantage there. A guy with a higher strikeout total than Morton, although Morton does get more ground balls. So you can look at it, in both directions. Morton gets more ground balls, so he'll be able to do that. But Buehler will get those higher strikeout totals and kind of get you that way. So it goes both ways. I think at the end of the day, we can talk about the weather being poor, the weather being good. It affects both teams at the same kind of foundation. But I would say, at the end of the day, Buehler's probably the better pitcher in this matchup, and I think the Dodgers still have the better hitting as well. And I think that will kind of show in this game, no matter what the weather is.
Yeah, both these pitchers, Jason, in the 2020 postseason have been very good. Just looking at, an average metric with an ERA, Buehler's a 189. Then we have Morton out here looking at a .57. So they both have done some damage out here. Pinnacle opens up offshore at SBRodds.com at an 8 as a total. It's 7.5 across the board. If we take a look at the ticket count coming in, about 50, it's almost a 50-50 ticket split between the Dodgers and the Rays. Pinnacle opened up offshore at 150 as a favorite towards the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's backtracked a little bit. Pinnacle's at 143, Chris offshore 147. New Jersey sportsbooks hanging in that high 140s number, and I do agree with it because always going in game to game to game. I do think the better overall lineup and pitching staff overall does lean towards the Dodgers, but you're getting that timely hitting now from the Rays, which we've seen all postseason and pretty much through all of 2020. So, given a breakdown of the game as they match up with each other and the extra day of rest, I got to tell you, I'm leaning to. It doesn't fit my eye, and it's not really what I bet. But if I'm looking at this game, trying to be true to what I like to see with hitting weather coming in, because we've even seen it when the previous series when we were out in San Diego, 75, 80 degrees, pitcher's ballpark, doesn't matter. They were detonating the baseball. Even in Arlington, when that roof is closed and the air conditioning turns on, it makes a big difference. But even if you do have the roof open tonight, you're not getting that same heat and humidity. I think that Dodgers lineup is still going to come to play tonight, but I'm not comfortable, I guess, looking at this game, Jason, taking a money line play, which we did on Clayton Kershaw. I was happy to spend the 160. I thought he was the better pitcher. It worked out well. I don't know if I want to spend, let's just say, minus 150 on the Dodgers tonight with Walker Buehler.
It's funny because I already said this in the last show on Friday. I think I said this. I don't think I'm ever going to take a side or a full total in this entire series. I think, these lines get a little bit juiced. They get a little bit crazy. Obviously, I think the Rays will probably be underdogs in every game this series. And although I think they're going to be underdogs in every series, I think they're actually going to end up winning this World Series when it's all said and done. And I haven't looked at matchup, game by game, but the reality is I think the Rays will probably end up winning in Game 7. And you can look at the Rays and take them as underdog every game. They're going to be an underdog every game. But the reality is, if the Rays are going to win, they're going to need to score runs. They're going to have to score more runs than the Dodgers. And the Dodgers will probably end up scoring 4 runs or more per game this series. So if the Rays want to win these games, they have to score potentially, 4 or more runs in this game to win. I don't know if they'll get that against Walker Buehler. Now, Walker Buehler has had trouble this series. He hasn't looked, or this postseason. He hasn't looked great, right? He's had over, I think it was 26, 27 runners on base in 19 innings pitched. He's allowed a ton of runners on base. He's been able to get out of jams. That's due to his strikeouts, obviously. Not getting the highest amount of ground balls, but his strikeouts have helped him get away from the damage. How long will that last? how long will Buehler be able to get out of this damage and not risk, not allow any runs, right? The reality is the Rays, this is a team that can do some damage when they get runners on base. They get those timely hits, and they do that, and they do that very well. Buehler, the one thing that he did really well versus the Braves in his last start, he didn't walk anyone. In his first 3 games, he actually walked 11 batters, which was uncharacteristic for Buehler. In the regular season, he walked just 2.7 batters per 9 innings. He walked 11 in his first 3 starts for the Dodgers. In that last start versus the Braves, he allowed no walks. He went his longest outing of the postseason, still allowed 6 hits, but no walks was a big deal for Buehler. Not allowing any walks is big, and if Buehler can do that again in this game against the Rays, the Dodgers will be well on their way to a win. If Buehler starts losing his command, losing control, a lot of pitch count, his pitch count being high, a lot of pitches per inning, it's going to be a different game, and the Rays can definitely win this game. But then again, Charlie Morton is a guy, a 304 average against righties this entire season. His OBP was 335 with righties and lefties combined, so he allowed a ton of runners on base throughout the entire season. So Morton hasn't looked great. He had like almost a 5 ERA in the regular season, a 4.74. He's looked great in the postseason, but how long will that last? We have a bigger sample size of his regular season stats, and that wasn't really too great with his OBP at 335 and the righties hitting him, at 304 average, and lefties like guys like Bellinger, Muncy, these guys that hit righties really well, and you can see that again happening against Morton. So this is gonna be a fun game. Again, it depends on situations if a team will win, and that's why it's so hard to pick a team that's actually going to win this game.
No, you're right. And try to take a look, because you bring up a good point there. There's so many different things. I mean, it wasn't so long ago where the only thing that you were betting was actually the side of the game. So there's so many different angles and options that you can look at. And one of the things that if I'm leaning toward an under, I always talk about betting in a vacuum the first 5 innings. I know the pitchers that are going to be in the game. I know the hitters that are going to be in the game. But it sits at that number that's always tough for me, Jason, when sitting on an under. 7.5, you like 8. Why? Because it goes to 9. But if we're taking a look at it as an over-under of 7.5 for the full game, first 5 innings here, I'm checking out a couple different statistics on some different websites here for gambling on, but 3.5, right? Like you get the 4 or 5 it takes to beat you. 3.5 is really low. And, my moniker, which I should get a t-shirt, one swing of the bat, you get a walk or a single and you get a 2-run home run. Now you're fighting for your life and it's only the 3rd inning. You still got 2 more innings to go. Both of these lineups can do damage, but I'm looking at the overall portion of the game where the bullpens are rested. The power arms are going to come in. You're going to get high fastballs, 96, 97, 98 miles an hour. And I just think that's going to hold up. And now maybe the pressure of the World Series comes in where you have both teams with a game. They had the day off. They take a deep breath. They reset. Now it's time to get back to business. I'm still going to lean with the under 7.5 in this game. I wanted to take the first 5 innings, but if we're looking at a rested and ready bullpen from both sides, that sort of figures in. Now you can get some decent matchups, and those power arms can come from behind and try to take, Walker Buehler or Morton if they get into any trouble in this game. Taking a look at from a betting perspective, that's just the way I see it in this game. And again, I'm an over-type backer, so I'm going to go with the under 7.5 full game in this. I can picture this game 4-3 in that range. I just think the power bats will be calmed down a little bit by the weather conditions down in Arlington, rested and ready bullpens from both sides, and maybe a little bit of pressure now in the World Series where it's game 3, it's 1-1. Every run means more, every pitch means more. So I'm going to go with the under in this game, Jason. What are you looking at for this game from a betting perspective here?
So the Dodgers have already scored 4 more runs in the first 2 games. I don't think that stops here. I think the Dodgers have the better offense, and going up against Morton, again, Morton's looked great. But we got to talk about the law of averages, right? Like he had a 4.74 ERA in the regular season through 9 starts. He's looked really good in these first 3 games, and Cash has made some bad decisions by taking him out early in some starts and whatnot. So even if, let's say, Morton does pitch well, maybe allows 1 earned run through 5 innings, he's not going deeper. He's not going 6, 7, 8 innings in this game. You do get that rested bullpen, but the Dodgers have already proved that they could hit this bullpen. I think this bullpen is getting a little bit overused, a little overworked, and even though they get that extra day, it's been a lot on their shoulders, especially the starters aren't going deep for them. Obviously, that's probably because of the cash, not because of the starters like Snell and Morton should have went deeper in their starts previous outings. But I think the Dodgers score 4 runs in this game, so I have the Dodgers over 3.5 for the team total at -150. Got that at William Hill. I know most of the books will have 4 or 4.5 at plus money. It's risky taking anything over 4 runs in this game for either team. Like Donnie said, this will probably be an under game. I don't really think the Rays score any. If they do score a couple, it will be against the bullpen. I think Buehler will lock down as long as he can, manage his walks. If he doesn't walk anyone, I think he'll be perfect, and I think he'll be great. But if he does start walking some people, it could become really hectic for Buehler and the Dodgers. And with that, and that's the one reason why I'm just looking at the Dodgers team total. I don't need to worry about what Buehler does. I think Buehler will pitch great, but there is a scenario where he can pitch poorly. His BABIP, batting average of balls in play in the regular season, was .198, so it was below 200 average. Morton was .355, that's 355 average with a batting average of balls in play. He gets hit hard. Obviously hasn't been in the postseason, but in the regular season he's facing against that one team, the Dodgers lineup, that can really hit hard, can hit extra base hits, big on ISO. All those sabermetrics and those numbers point to the Dodgers offense doing well versus Morton. Even though he's pitched so well in the postseason, that's what makes the postseason so hard, because he's been so much better in the postseason compared to the regular season. So we're going off of his regular season stats, saying that he's going to hit the law of averages, and Morton should struggle in this game. But the reality is, Morton, we said this before, in his last start before that, it hasn't happened. So we'll see what happens there. Also, do have a player prop that I do like. I know a couple people in that chat said that they're done with player props, and I understand it. I completely understand it. But I do think Bellinger has a great day today. I see over 0.5 total bases at -162 on Sugar House. Again, he's a guy that faces righties a lot better than lefties. So Bellinger going up against Morton can do a lot of damage, has big weighted OBA, has a big ISO advantage. There's a lot there for Bellinger to do some work there. So I just need him to get one single. He's a guy that really doesn't strike out too many times against righties. I think it's around 15%, which isn't too bad. Also, his hard contact percentage against righties is over 45%. So hard contact, less strikeouts, high ISO numbers, and high weighted OBA. I do think he at least gets one single in this game. So again, Bellinger over 0.5 on the total bases at -162. And then also Dodgers over 3.5 on the team total at -150. My 2 official plays for the day.
There we go. Nice little 4-3 final. We all win and can go home a winner. But I got to tell you guys, thanks for joining us here on your lunch break, talking a little bit of World Series baseball. A lot of people watch this show even after it's live. So we do thank you guys for a lot of the support. As we said, Game 3 tonight, Game 4 Saturday, Game 5 Sunday, day off Monday, and hopefully both Jason and I will be back on Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. to talk a little bit of craziness in the World Series games, hopefully a World Series Game 6 and possibly a Game 7. But also, one quick point in this game also, if you're looking for the over, Bill Miller's behind the plate. He's a really good over umpire, plus 27 units in his career. So not some guy that's going to give you that ball 6 inches off the plate, which we've all known when we're betting overs, completely crushes it, because even if you don't strike out, you get that count that should be 2-1 into a 1-2, and it completely changes the dynamic of the at-bat. But guys, thank you once again for joining us. 71,800 people hit that subscribe button, hoping for a good game tonight for both Jason and I can cash in. It is a football Friday, but still able to come in here and talk a little bit of Major League Baseball. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Jason Radowitz. We are sportsbookreview.com, and this was your World Series Major League Baseball show for Friday. Good luck, guys.